Hey everybody, Bob Babbitt here, Challenge Athletes Live. Hope everybody is doing great. Our next guest, currently ranked 6th in the world, is a para-triathlete. Visually impaired athlete Amy Dixon joins us. How you doing, Amy?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So your background, is that Elvis in the background?
It is. It is the king, of course. It's my retired guide dog, Elvis. And so now I have Woodstock, his successor, who is a German Shepherd.
So everything in your life was going along well. Were you 22 years old is when all of a sudden your vision started to go bad?
Yep. And I was diagnosed with a rare form of uveitis, the third leading cause of blindness. And it's a progressive autoimmune condition that takes your eyesight from the periphery towards the middle. So when I got diagnosed, I had lost about 70% of my peripheral vision and went through extensive steroid and chemotherapy treatment to slow down the progression of the disease, which worked for a while. And then I got sick again about 11 years ago and I lost most of my remaining sight.
What was the lowest point for you in terms of, I mean, obviously you're going through your life, you're working and everything is moving along, and then everything comes to a little bit of a standstill. What was the lowest?
Well, I grew up outside of New York City, about an hour north of there. And so I lived in the suburbs in horse country. And so public transportation wasn't something that even existed in my area. So, and the only experience I ever had with blind people was seeing panhandlers on the subway in New York City. So I envisioned that was what my life was going to look like, that I was going to suddenly become dependent upon my family, have to go move back home, not be able to work anymore as in a career that I loved. I was training to be a pharmacist. I was working on my doctorate. So I just imagined my whole life was going to come to an end as I knew it. And it wasn't until, honestly, when the disease got really bad 11 years ago and I gained about 75 pounds from all the steroids that I refound my inner athlete through a lovely young woman named Carolyn Gaynor, who introduced me to the sport of triathlon.
And just the whole idea of getting a guide dog and needing other people, right? You're an independent person needing other people. How hard was that for you to deal with?
It was very hard. I mean, again, I couldn't imagine trusting a four-legged creature with my life on a daily, especially growing up with horses. I certainly wouldn't trust a horse with my life. I wasn't, you know, the thought of a dog was terrifying, but it was definitely a big adjustment period, but it took about 6 months. It's kind of like learning a new dance with in an arranged marriage, I always say. and I have 2 left feet.
And you found the sport of triathlon. When did you realize you could be good at it?
Well, I did my very first triathlon in Sleepy Hollow, New York, and it turns out the race director was Ray Kelly, who's a volunteer for CAF. And so he was bi-coastal at that point, back and forth from San Diego and out in New York as well. And he invited me to come, and I was terrified. I was the only blind athlete competing in this race, or any disabled athlete competing in the race. And I had a million questions. I'd never done a race before. I was worried about getting swum over. I was worried about sticking out and getting in people's way, or, you know, I was totally nervous about the whole experience. And he made it so fun and so inviting and rewarding. And unbeknownst to me, he put my name in it applied for me, unbeknownst to me, to CAF's triathlon camp out in San Diego. And I got invited out a couple months later, and I was so excited. And that's when I got to meet Mark Sortino and the whole team. And I got to meet Rudy and Roderick, and was so inspired by everybody and meeting people that had been through similar challenges and were not only just enjoying sports, but super successful in sports. And I went back and I got a little bit of coaching. Ray volunteered to be my coach, and I got a little faster. And then I got invited by Team USA to a development camp in Baltimore, Maryland.
And at that point, for paratriathlon, we weren't in the Paralympics yet until 2016.
Right.
When did you get to the point where you started actually thinking that, you know what, this could be something I could actually make the U.S. team?
I finished second at the Continental Championships in Monterrey, Mexico a few years ago, and I came within spitting distance of my competitor and then Paralympian Patricia Walsh. And traditionally I had been much slower than her, and I finally was within shooting distance of catching her, and I thought, gosh, like maybe I have a shot here. And I was training at a level that I thought was intense, but I had no idea what it would truly, what the training really took to become a Paralympic athlete. I thought, 9 or 10 hours a week was sufficient. Now I'm training like 23 hours a week, and it's a full, and it's really a 40 plus hour a week job now. It's definitely full time plus. But yeah, it was that moment that I realized that I actually felt like I belonged, and that I could actually be successful at the sport.
When you talk about having to trust a four-legged dog to be with you and help you out, then you're trusting a person on a bicycle going 30 some miles an hour with your life, because you're on the back of that tandem. How scary is that?
I think if I could trust a dog, I could certainly trust somebody who could talk to me and communicate to me verbally. And so I think the guide dog sort of prepared me for para-triathlon. And I was really, really lucky. Talk about right place, right time. I mean, San Diego is the birthplace of triathlon, and I got introduced to some really elite athletes out here, like Leslie Patterson, Xterra, world champion, and Simon were super supportive of me from the get-go and introduced me to people like Suzanne Davis, who is a world-class athlete, former professional triathlete on the U.S. national team herself, also Ironman world champion as an age grouper, and so, USA Triathlon's Athlete of the Year. And so I got introduced to people like that and suddenly realized that with the help of somebody like that, I was in really, really good hands. And she had so much experience that even on her worst day with no sleep and horrible nutrition, she was more than capable of doing my paces and also coaching me through the race. And I always say that as a blind athlete, we actually have a huge advantage over other disability categories, because you've got a partner there to sort of like talk you through really bad moments in your race, when you're really suffering, who can like cheer you on and get you out of your head.
And one of the issues is, as you get faster, you've got to have a guide who can push you, right? They always have to be a little bit faster. Has that been tough finding, not just in racing, but in training?
It's been extremely hard. And, and I've been relegated a lot to the treadmill, especially with everything going on right now. Social distancing, as a blind athlete, I have to run next to somebody who can communicate potholes, turns, dogs running in the street, surfers crossing the street here in Encinitas, all the hazards that we have here. And so it's just not safe for me to run outside by myself. I have a loop around the baseball field at the YMCA here that's dirt, but with all the rain that we had the past couple of months, it's very uneven, so it's not a safe place for me to go anything faster than like a 9 or 10 minute mile. So it's fine for like an easy jog, but then for anything of substance, it's not safe for me. So yeah, I really rely on guides, and the faster I get, the harder it is for me to find guides. I mean, I'm running, 5:36 minute pace, and that narrows it down to some pretty elite runners. And people that are usually running at that level are usually competing for themselves. So they have their own coach or their own training plan. So trying to fit my workout into their plan doesn't jive. So a lot of times I either have to run on a track, which on a track I can safely run by myself as long as the other people on the track know that I'm visually impaired and I might not see them, or on the treadmill. But I don't feel very safe running super fast on a treadmill, because the higher my heart rate is, the less I can see. So above a heart rate of 160, I have no vision at all. When I'm running, 6 minute pace, I don't have any vision. So I rely on having to touch the treadmill with my pinkies. I touch the bar at the front every step, so I know where I am in space.
How important has technology been for you in terms of training and racing and everything else?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, my coach, he's based out in Colorado Springs. I work with Ken Axford.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of the national team coaches out there. And so, he's a Garmin, and it sends all my data every day to him, and I also am sponsored by Wahoo, and I have a Wahoo kicker here. And as a blind athlete, that's clutch, because that captures every bit of data. It's very accurate. So all of my workouts are power-based, and I work with Zwift as well. And Zwift has been awesome. It's, I'm trying to talk to the powers that be there. I have a meeting with the CEO and the COO next week regarding making it more accessible for the blind, because I coach a bunch of blind athletes that are totally blind, that have no vision, and they can't use the platform at all. It's not at all set up for somebody who's totally blind. But for me, I have a little bit of vision, so it's easy for me to use. And I love it because I'm good friends with some of my competitors that I race against. Melissa Reed over in England. She was just out here for the Adaptive Surfing World Championships as well. Susana Garcia from Spain. So we all ride together and chat. We have our usual our coffee rides on Saturdays that we do together. So it's great. So I can ride with my competitors from other countries in different time zones. I can ride with my coach. My coach can put together a race of all of his athletes. It's really fun, and it's, you can make it a no drop ride. So you can ride with, we rode on Saturday. CAF had a great fundraiser.
With Jens Voigt.
With Jens Voigt. I mean, like, I can say that I finally rode with Jens Voigt. Of course, he dropped me in about a mile, but I was like,
all of us. Yeah. That was really fun. And that, you know, that's the type of, so that type of technology is huge for everybody stuck indoors, but really for someone who's visually impaired, even more.
I don't have an option. I can't ride outside. You know, I can't ride a single bike by myself. And right now in the tandem, nobody wants to ride the tandem because of social distancing, which is smart. It's the right thing to do. But as somebody who, like, I don't really have a choice to try. I mean, I have to train. You know, I'm on the national team. It's part of my contract. It's my requirement. I need to be race ready, possibly as soon as July 18th, if nationals goes ahead. We've been told that there may be a race coming up in September if nationals doesn't happen at the Legacy Triathlon this summer in Long Beach. It may be moved to Florida in September. So we just have to be ready for either of those scenarios and keep training at the level that we're expecting.
How close were you to making the 2016 team?
Very, within 30 seconds.
I thought I'd bring that up.
30 seconds, you know, the worst. I was just talking about it the other day, actually, with my ART practitioner, and talking about, like, there's no worse feeling than watching that slot run away from you and realizing that you're just completely blowing up on the run and you're powerless to do anything. And it was funny. My max heart rate on that day was 204, and I passed out at the finish line. Jay Weber, who is also a volunteer for CAF, he was an ITU official who happened to be at that race at the finish line. He caught me when I hit the deck, and I woke up in the med tent, and I asked my coach, Ray Kelly, and I said, "Did I win?" And he goes, "Oh, no, honey." I'm like, "Really?" It hurt so bad. And he goes,
but you started.
It was close.
The race you did have, you got a bronze, right, this year in Davenport.
No, silver.
Oh, you got a silver. Good.
I did. That was one of the best races of my life. I've won 7 gold medals, and I swear I would take all of them for that one silver. That silver was really, really the right race at the right time. I mean, I put myself budget-wise, if you will, for Tokyo in such a great position after that race. It moved me up to number 6 in the world. Mathematically, the way things are right now, I can't be bumped from that slot, knock on wood, as long as I stay healthy. I just have to put myself in bubble wrap for the next year. So I can't be bumped by the girls that are ranked lower than me. So it's looking very good for Tokyo, and my teammate Liz Baker and I she's ranked 5th and I'm ranked 6th. So as long as we stay there, we're in good shape. But that Davenport race was just one of the hardest races of my life. We had a 40-mile-an-hour wind on the bike. I was like, oh, this is what Kona's like. I've heard about this. This is horrible. Because on a tandem, it's like riding a tractor trailer. So it literally, like, that wind we were watching guys from Korea and Japan just getting blown off the road on the tandems and crashing into the grass. We're like, what the hell is going on? And I was so grateful for my pilot and her upper body strength to muscle that tandem in that wind. And then it came down to the run between me and this Ukrainian girl, and she's 23 years old. And I'm like, I'm 44. I do not want to come down to a sprint finish with a 20-year-old. And so I just decided to let her. And it was funny. I took my inspiration from Gwen Jorgensen in Rio when she was running shoulder to shoulder with Nicola Spirig. And I remember they were talking back and forth and, arguing about, like, no, you go first, because there was such a strong headwind down there in Rio. And the wind was so bad. And I thought, why am I working so bloody hard? I'm old. I'm going to get behind her and let her do all the work. And so I did. And then with 800 meters, I just dropped her. And it was such a, because my ego wanted me to go blow the doors off of her, but I'm like, well, that's suicide. Like, I'm not catching gold. Gold was because the young lady from Italy that won gold, she gets a 3-minute and 48-second head start because she's a B1 athlete. I'm a B3. So it's the difference between partially sighted and fully blind. And it's a factor system. So I knew that I wasn't making up the 1.5 minutes that gap that she still had on me at that point in the race. So I thought, well, why am I going to commit suicide for for bronze or silver. I'm going to let this young lady work really hard, and then I'm going to pass her.
I love it. Okay, we're going to move into our rapid fire.
Sure, sure.
Best CAF memory.
Oh gosh, I think the first time I came out to San Diego Tri Challenge out there, Dr. Brian Solberg had invited me out, and seeing the parade of athletes in the morning and watching these little kids, and I think you had granted me, I think it was back when Abel first got involved with CAF, Rose from Texas, and I think you guys had granted him like a BMX kind of wheelchair, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Just this little kid, so badass, and so pumped to like go rip it up, skateboarding in skate parks on his cool wheelchair, and I watched all the kids do the race, and I thought, God, this is exactly. I mean, I never imagined that was possible, and seeing what was possible and meeting other athletes and young kids who had never seen another kid that was missing a leg before in their life, and the tears of their parents on their parents' faces when they realized that, what was possible for their kids. It really moved me.
Go-to comfort food.
Oh, probably a burger.
Most recent TV show binge.
Oh, I've had a few, but Ozark was really good. Yeah.
Favorite book or podcast?
Ooh, I really love Wits Up. Of course, I love Babbitt Radio. Don't get me wrong.
Good girl. Good girl. I like it.
That's a go-to. That's a must. But for women in triathlon, I love Steph Vinson's Wits Up.
She's great. Person you miss seeing the most during these crazy times?
I would say my swim buddies. I swim masters every day at the YMCA, and as a blind athlete, I train mostly by myself, again, on the treadmill and on my trainer. And so swimming with a group is one social activity I have outside of the house each day. So I look forward to that and miss it.
A place you can't wait to visit when this is over?
Ooh, good one. That's a good one. Well, Tokyo, I guess.
Yes, that'd be a good place to go. What words do you love to hear from a coach?
I'm proud of you. Yeah.
What words do you hate to hear from a coach?
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking? Your message to our challenged athletes out there who might be struggling right now.
You know what? Everything in life is temporary. Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, and that this too shall pass. And honestly, for me, initially, I was so disappointed and upset about Tokyo being delayed a year. And honestly, it's been a gift in some ways. I've had a chance to go back and work on parts of my fitness that were kind of a hole in my fitness, and now we have the luxury of time to do that. So if you look at this more, I mean, it's hard to reframe things, but reframe it in your mind. Look at this as a gift of time. Things like I made my garage into the most badass gym, and I've been always wanting to do that. So this kind of gave me the excuse to do it. So now I'm very self-sufficient. And my advice to them right now, for those athletes that have physical disabilities and are at home, reach out to members of your community to find out, like, if people have equipment that you can borrow or use. I know I was so grateful. The YMCA here contacted one of their suppliers and got me a treadmill, got me hooked up with a weight bench, things like that. So reach out to your community, reach out to CAF. You never know what connection people might have to help you get some equipment to keep you moving in some capacity at home while we're kind of stuck at home.
Amy, you are the best. Thank you so much for taking so much time to chat, and thanks for being such a great representative of CAF.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for all you do. I can't wait to be part of SDTC this year. It's going to be amazing.
Amy Dixon has been our guest. Thanks everybody for tuning in.